So first and foremost, going to go over our trend template that we go over every week. And so right now we are on day 40 of our uptrend. The last uptrend we had was 40 days, and that was 40 days without going below the 21-day moving average. We literally only had like 1 or 2 days, maybe 4 days below the 21 day, and we never actually got below the 30-day moving average. So I'll be watching those kind of levels as well, and I'm going to go into that on the charts here next. But I do keep track every day of what are the leading stocks, what are the lagging stocks, and kind of just little notes from the day. So today we had a distribution day. It is distribution day number 5 in the last 25 days, and after 25 days they reset and one will fall off if there is one on 25 days ago. So we do have four distribution days in the last 25 days, which is little subtleties that we could be looking for a longer, like a just a little deeper pullback, not just a 2 or 3. Lately, we've been getting a 2 or 3% pullback, and then pumping right back to all-time highs. 2 or 3 pullback, 2 or 3% pullback, pumping to all-time highs. March is a historically weak month, so it would be nice to follow some sort of seasonality trend to go sideways or down throughout some of March. It tends to not really start until the middle to end of the month. So I'm not too eager. I'm not really looking into shorts too much, but I am being fairly cautious with some newer buys. One second. And so we are seeing like a rotation. What I've noticed is banks are looking phenomenal. Banks are looking very, very good. The KRE, the regional bank ETF, that was up 4% today, which was one of its strongest days in a long time. And then just your XLF was just in a bull flag over the last few days. So banks are looking good. Crypto hit all-time highs and just already kind of had its little pullback, which is just a normal crypto thing. You are seeing a lagging in your EV stocks, Tesla, some of your mega techs, Apple, Google. They have not really been participating in this last few weeks worth of rally. So that's just kind of something I've been noting that all our biggest stocks are really not moving too much. Tesla, Apple, Google, Amazon, but then you do see a huge influx in semiconductors, NVIDIA, AMD. There was on Friday, it was absolutely insane how many semiconductors hit all-time highs. And I'm actually going to go to the charts to go check on those to show those. One thing that I do want to note and remind people that 80% of all rallies do end within 50 days. And so we are on day 40. So as I said, I am being more cautious. There's not really huge signs of any sort of institutional selling. There's actually no signs at all. If you look at AMD or NVIDIA today, it was up while the rest of the market was down 2%. AMD up. It was flat, but had an upside reversal. SMCI upside reversal actually closed green today. So you kind of saw in your leading stocks this huge momentum where it didn't want to continue lower. CrowdStrike today, it had kind of I think it was a bounce off the 21 day, bounce off the 50-day moving average, had earnings, and now it's up almost $60. So you are seeing the leading stocks continuing to kind of they're not selling off heavy. You're not seeing huge sell volume on the sell-offs. We are in Uber, and you see here the sell volume is next to nothing. We're in Roblox, the sell volume is next to nothing compared to any of these buy volume in the last few weeks. So in general, there's not a lot of volume, but there is like the sell volume is very, very weak. If you go to the US 100, the NASDAQ, this is kind of what I'm looking at here. I'll get rid of these moving averages. This is the strong low, this is the strong low that created this high up here. And so ideally we would be holding this low. and look to create, maybe even wick down, but look to at least hold it for the most part and then come back higher if we are going to continue higher. I'm really watching these levels here, this like previous resistance zone, to see if it's going to be an easy, similar to this level here, where we got underneath it, but then it was just kind of easy to get back above it. So I want to see, is it going to be easy or is it going to have some sort of resistance again as it gets back above? We have news every day this week. So we had PPI this week, today. We have tomorrow, we have Powell speaking. We have Jolts as well. And then on Thursday, again, we have Powell speaking and another FOMC member, which is kind of not as important, but we do have Powell speaking on Wednesday and Thursday at 10, 11, 12, 1 p.m. Eastern time. So that'll be probably 1:30 when he does any sort of like press conference after he speaks about it. So we will see probably some heavier movement there. And then we got NFP and unemployment claims on Friday. And that'll be pre-market. No, those are eight to, usually they're pre-market, but it's showing it's not. But usually those will be pre-market. So we do have a ton of news the rest of the week. So we could kind of do exactly what we did last week, where or 2 weeks ago, where we have a little pullback and then close the week green. So we'll see kind of, I'm watching to see how it reacts. I was really impressed by how well the euro and a lot of these currencies held up. You didn't see like on a heavy down move like we had today. Normally, you would see like JPY have a pretty decent sized up move because they're inverse. They tend to be inverse. But today we just kind of had a nothing move with UJ. It's just been consolidating for what, 3 weeks? Yeah, 3 weeks now almost. UJ has just been consolidating. So this is just needs to break this range out of some sort. This is a shit trade right now. Excuse me, ma'am. Well, well. And then the some ETFs that I do constantly watch, and we go over these every week, is this QQQJ trying to break out into a stage two uptrend here. I don't have a bite. Hold on. And we have this strong high right here. We broke out above it, and now we're holding above it. So even if we kind of pull back a little bit, re-undercut it, come down to somewhere around here, this 26 level, that would be still bullish as long as we hold this low here. This 25.60, that's the low that created this high here. So as long as we hold that, I'm still looking for, excuse me, I'm still looking for higher prices in the markets. And this is QQQJ is more for your um your smaller cap tech stocks. And that's what I look at the most with these, because those are a lot of IPOs, SMCI, and things like that. I'm gonna get headset on real quick. Check, check. Can you guys still hear me? Let me know if you guys can still hear me. Yes. Okay, cool. I just didn't want her screaming in everybody's ears like she is in mine. And then IWM was another one that we have been watching, kind of waiting for this breakout. It looks like over the last few days we weren't pulling back too hard, so it could just be kind of like a squat reset, but we didn't have a heavy gain above, like we didn't break out with any sort of volume here, if you notice on the volume candles. And so I am watching to see if we are start pulling back on heavier volume, and then we might see a possible failed breakout and just another pullback and continue, and then even come like to a 50-day moving average. But I still really like IWM for the year, where I think it's still going to kind of come up to this 220 to 212 level. seasonality wise, we are getting into a weaker seasonality where it's kind of like March is like I think it's the fifth worst month, so it's right in kind of in the middle. But for uh for election years, March tends to be one of the worst months, March and April. And so if we go to our election seasonality right here, oops, you can tell this is NASDAQ composite since 1971 for all the election years. And you can see that normally in March and April, you just kind of chop around. And then election years, you do see somewhat of a impulse up in the beginning of March and then kind of a drawdown throughout March and then till middle of April. And you see the same thing here in IWM. This is Russell 1000, so that's a mid cap. And then this is the Russell 2000, so that's a small cap. So you are seeing a similar pattern here where you do see somewhat of a pullback in the market when uh, throughout this time period of the year, in election years specifically. And that's what I'm really looking at a lot of times is not just is it the seasonality wise, but is it seasonality wise for our 4 year cycle trend? And right now we are in our election year. So we're kind of looking to see how that's going to react. So that's it for the indices. Next, I'm going to go to kind of a few trades I am in that I still think look good. I am in CCL, and I'm kind of basing this very similar off of this other kind of consolidation break pattern, where if you go to a weekly chart, you are in an imbalance here, and then we had an order block here. So we are in an imbalance on both. Had a swing low candle, had a swing low on the weekly chart here on both of them. And then on this specific last base that we formed, we kind of based out for 6 or 7 days. I think it was 6 days. Yeah, we based out for it was 6 trading days. And so I'm watching to see here that would be by Wednesday or Thursday would be our sixth or seventh day. And so I'm watching to see if this follows suit. And notice how it even wicked above here. It wicked above here, then had kind of it had a worse day afterwards on this. And then we were just kind of today we opened up down and we were just kind of flat most of the day for CCL. So definitely going to be following to see if we have if this trend follows. My stop loss is kind of below this whole consolidation zone. So if we end up having a displacement below, then I'll probably be looking to get out. And I'm just looking to get back up to these highs. There's very clean equal highs, well, relative. They're very close. It kind of wicked above a little bit here, but this would be considered a weak high because it did get a little bit above this high here. And so would be looking to get to this high. And that's a fruitful one. I'm sorry, I gotta help my daughter real quick. She's freaking. Okay, sorry about that. So that's CCL. The one thing that I am do notice different between this base and this base is the volume. So that is going to be something I'm going to be watching heavy. You don't see these crazy this amount of like green volume spikes. So I want to see the next few days. If we do start breaking out, I want to see some good volume into it as well. Next would be Roblox. Roblox is a little bit below our stop loss. I do like to wait till weekly closes when we are like not displacing to the downside. So I am waiting till a weekly close on this one as well. The weekly chart still looks decent. It's not fully like the last weekly candle was an upside reversal. So I want to see if we close this weekly candle as an upside reversal as well. Tomorrow will probably be the tell if I want to close for the week or not if we do close below this 200-day moving average. So this is our daily chart. We are at a 200-day moving average. And so if we do get some displacement below there, then I'll just take the 1 hour loss and I'll just cut it. Next is Uber. This one's nice. I still like Uber. Did have an upside reversal today, so I did leave this again. We're sitting right on our 10-day moving average. We're real close to our 21-day moving average. So again, no real reason to cut this yet. If we do start struggling to get back above this previous high, this previous breakout zone that we bought at, then I will probably just close. If we get up to here and we start failing, then I'll probably just look to close there, and that probably won't even be for a 1 hour. It'll probably be a smaller loss on that one. So that's Uber. Then, so these two are what I'm looking at and where I'm looking to close some of those. Those are what I did get into. And then we went over coin last week, how uh we entered here. We ended up getting, I think my runner ended up being like a 11R, but the majority of the move we took a 6R. So that was good on Coinbase a few weeks ago. I don't really like the volume on this push up right here. So kind of definitely gonna watch Coinbase at this 207 level to see if it's gonna pull back into this 170, 180 level. A couple stocks that I do think look good, and I really like these ones because the sector is good. Is like KSS is really nice. They have earnings this week and or this week and next week. So KSS has very low volume. If you go on a 4 hour chart, or a daily chart, you see this volume is kind of drying up. You are holding your 21 day, holding your 10-day, kind of upside reversal today. No real entry yet, really because of the earnings. I'm tend to be more timid, and we saw like Macy's went down on earnings. Nordstrom is just had earnings, so they are down. What is this? They're down 10% on their earnings now. So I want to see how KSS reacts to all of those earnings as well, because they are in the same sector. Couple banks that I really like. Ew, I don't like the close of this today actually, but let's see if how XLF tried to break out today and it seemed to fail, but look at the volume profile on these. Just straight buys on XLF. You're seeing banks are very accumulated by institutions right now. So this is definitely a sector that I'm really watching. You see real tight action over the last few weeks on XLF. And JP Morgan is at all-time highs. Wells Fargo looks really good. That's continuing higher. I was looking to get into this if it pulled back, but it never did. And so banks are looking solid. That's a huge sector that I'm watching right now is the banking sector. As I said earlier, KRE weirdly had its strongest day. Actually, this looks pretty solid. Had its strongest day in a long time. Yeah, it had a 5% day in December, and this is its first time that it's had more than a 2% day since then. And this looks solid. I like the volume here. It's right at its 200-day moving average. You could see if the market, even if the market doesn't do too crazy, you could see, and it just consolidates, you could see a decent move up to here. One stock I am looking to sell puts on specifically is kind of Unity as it gets lower into this like $25 level. If it does, then I will be looking to sell like $20 puts or $15 puts, something towards their all-time lows, to where if it does hit those all-time lows, I will get assigned and I'll just start selling calls against it. So Unity is one. It's not really anything I want to look at now because you do see you're below the 200, below the declining 21 and 10-day moving average, and you still have about 10%, 5 or 10%. Yeah, just about 10% to the lower end of the range. So I want to see how we react if we have a strong bounce here or if we continue to go towards this lower end of the range. I mentioned some of the semis, they were holding up incredibly well today. I did say that. And so I'm watching these semis more than a lot of other stocks, not necessarily to trade, but really to get a market sentiment to see, okay, what is going to be, are they going to hold up? Are semis going to hold up or are semis going to start breaking down? Because when semis hold up, you see stronger markets. When semis start breaking down, you start seeing markets that start breaking down. A good thing that we do see is the bonds are looking fairly weak right here. Especially if you look on a weekly chart. Let me just remove all of this. You have this heavy move to the downside here. We wicked above this set of highs right into this weekly fair value gap, rejected from that, which was also this previous high right here. And so that range was down to this 3.26. That would create, if we start displacing now a little heavier, that would make this 3.78 now a weak low. And so that would be where we would be looking for a first target would be down at this 3.78. So interest rates are looking fairly weak here. I think we're on a 200-day. Yeah, we're at the 200-day moving average. And you see it does have some sort of value to it. It does bounce, kind of consolidate, rejected here. So if it does fail this, then I will for sure be looking for it to come back down to 3.8. And the market and the news coming up could make a huge impact in how this reacts. And so we definitely will be watching by Friday. We should see a reaction to see whether this is going to fail this 200 EMA or hold it up. And that brings me to TLT, which is the opposite to bonds, which I was talking about this a few weeks ago now, where I was wanting it to come to this $92 level and see how it reacted there and allow this 200 EMA to start flattening out. And that's what we're doing right here. We got down to our 92 level. It's starting to flatten out. And so I want to see maybe a little bit more sideways. You see this great set of buying pressure here, a lot of buys, but you see a declining buy volume over the last few days. So this holding this to anchored VWAP from October lows, which is great. So if it comes back down to it and retests it, or back down to this 10 or 21-day moving average, then those would be really good levels to look for possible really low risk buys where you can just use one of those moving averages or this $92 level, which is only at 2% away, to target this $100 level. And it's a slower mover because they're bonds, so they're not going to move like crazy, but you can get good trades off of them as well. And so then last but not least, I am kind of watching just briefly this Euro chart just because I do like how it looks on like a 4 hour and a little smaller time frames. The weekly is kind of mediocre. It looks like it wants to go sideways a little bit more. But if we can, and we're right at the 200 in a minute, but if we can get over, excuse me, if we can get over this pivot here at 1.08, especially at this 1.086, then we could start seeing a pretty good move back to 1.109 and 1.11, especially this 1.11 looks very nice if we can get back above here. And so I'll be watching that as well. Currencies right now are really trash because a lot of them are right on the 200 EMA on like the weekly and fucking daily chart. So they're not very volatile and they're pretty just mild moves. So I haven't been trading them too much, but I do keep an eye on them and see how they look. Is there any charts or anything that anybody wants to go over? That's all for me for today. I gotta get this child. Yeah. So if there's no charts, I will head out. But let me know if you guys have any charts that we want to look at or any questions that we have. And just post them in the Playbit Square. I'm not looking at anything else. Check tree. I looked at this when you posted it. Right here. This is great. Boom. Volume is great. Moving averages are good. Equity one for sure. I was looking at the options. They're fucking terrible. Held phenomenal. And it kind of goes with that, like, it's not, I know it's not a bank, but it just kind of goes with that, um, finance, the finance theme that you can see. 47 is easy. Like, definitely looks like 47 is coming. No problem. This for sure looks like 47. Dude, there's not a lot of resistance past that either. If it gets above, it could really make a move. You got this 200 EMA on the weekly would be like the next spot. 90, yeah. Like it's crazy how like I have to do a logarithmic chart. You can see the highs and lows a little better because there's not a lot of like highs and lows here. 55. Let's look here. Previous charts. 60. Yes, 55, 65. This is a crazy chart. It got all the way up to 560. Holy shit. Yeah, this looks really good. I still really like XLRE. Oh, one that could be decent for shorts if we start pulling back is Jets. You got this 200 EMA rejection over and over on the weekly chart. So this, if we do start seeing rejections and start seeing shit really start pulling back and failing, this could be a good one. Jetses under the COVID AWOP. Where'd you start at the COVID low? From low. Huh. Oh, the AVWAP. Ha, whoops. You usually there it is. Yeah. I was I was going the volume profile. But yeah, this looks super good. If it starts rejecting, this is gonna be a fucking short. This is gonna be a fun short because your first target would be like down here at 17, and then an easy target like these equal lows at 15. Yeah, that's right where I was looking at, like these ones down here, because it didn't make a new high. So this would be a target. Child. I've noticed there's a lot of shit that's coming right up to this 200 EMA on the weekly chart. Disney, another one, right at the 200 EMA on the weekly chart. Carvana, right at its 200 EMA on the weekly chart. Like, if they have it, this is definitely something I've been paying attention to. So keep an eye on these 200 EMA on the weekly chart. If something's coming up to it and it's pointing down, it could struggle. see. I want to see one last thing before I leave because I do have to get this child some food. CrowdStrike, how did they do? 0.82, 0.95. They had incredible Q1 0.47. So they're 100%, over 100% year over year in EPS. About 20, 30% year up year over year for sales. About 20%, 30% year over year sales is just rough math. And then 100% year over year with EPS. That's why CrowdStrike. Now it's up $60. Holy shit. This is going to be really important to see how it reacts tomorrow. So definitely keep this in an eye, because if this starts failing and doesn't want to hold up, that's not great. You want to see earnings that go higher. You want to see them at least hold, bare minimum. So, all right, guys, I appreciate you. I do gotta get this girl some food. Thank you guys for tuning in. Enjoy the rest of your day. I am excited for Robbie's tomorrow. And if you guys are in tomorrow morning, we will be in for early bird stock streams. To might not be a very fast day because it's going to be a Powell speaking later, but we might be able to find something. I appreciate you guys.